Welcome back to Reds Fusion LFC, your home for all things Liverpool FC. Today we've got a massive transfer twist involving MARC GUEHI, with Crystal Palace sending a clear message to the Reds: you've got the choice. Plus, we'll break down how this move exposes Arne Slot's big gamble, what it means for Liverpool's season-defining week, and the new penalty verdict that's got fans talking. Stay tuned. This one's going to shake things up at Anfield. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated with every twist and turn in the transfer window. MARC GUEHI transfer twist as Palace tell Liverpool where they stand. Got the choice. MARC GUEHI saw a move to Liverpool collapse late in the summer window, and Crystal Palace boss Steve Parish has released fresh insight into the transfer amid interest from Bayern Munich. Steve Parish has admitted that MARC GUEHI now has free rein to pick whichever club he wants following his collapse move to Liverpool. The England defender was on the verge of a move to Anfield late in the window, only for Crystal Palace to pull the plug on deadline day. As it stands, GUEHI is now set to leave Selhurst Park on a free transfer at the end of his contract. Liverpool have invariably been linked with a move, while German giants Bayern Munich have recently been credited with an interest. Offering a fresh take on GUEHI's future, Palace chairman Steve Parish has admitted that the Eagles could not afford to cash in and believes GUEHI now has a choice over where to move to next. Speaking on the Men in Blazers podcast, he said, "Well, we did quite an analytical look at it in terms of what do we think Mark's worth in terms of places in the Premier League. Obviously, what does it do to that mentality, that psyche, that belief system, all of those indefinables? And you know, what's the upside? And what's the downside?" It was a very marginal call. Mark was great about it as a person. They'd made an offer. It was Liverpool. It was a massive club. He was obviously interested in going. But he was fine about it, staying, if that was the decision we make. Obviously, it means all of the ball is in his court tremendously as a player, and he's got the choice of wherever he wants to go. It was a very difficult one, but I think definitely the right one, he added. So we needed to keep Mark because the difference between us having a stellar season and having a relegation-threatened season is us winning 5 games or not. So the margins in the Premier League are very tight, and you have to remember that Michael Olise has gone, we're okay, Ebereki Ez has gone, we're okay, Wilfred went, we're okay. There's a limit to how much you can keep doing that before you break down the fabric of the team. After deciding to keep GUEHI, Palace have enjoyed a positive start to the season. They sit 10th in the Premier League and have secured a place in the quarter-finals of the Carabao Cup after beating Liverpool 3-0 at Anfield. That defeat was just the latest in a run of poor results for the Reds under Arne Slot. They have lost 6 out of their last 7 games in all competitions. Arne Slot theory is fanciful. Liverpool already have the blueprint for season-defining week. Final word on Liverpool's 3-0 loss to Crystal Palace as Arne Slot looks ahead to something of a season-defining week against Aston Villa, Real Madrid, and Manchester City, after 4 successive Premier League defeats. The idea that passage to the 5th round of the Carabao Cup will have given Arne Slot extra margin for error on Saturday night against Aston Villa is fanciful. The Liverpool boss is firmly in the grip of his worst sequence since he pitched up on Merseyside in the summer of 2024, and the questions and the critiques are piling up by the game right now. The injury list is growing, with Slot potentially without Curtis Jones, Alexander Isak and Ryan Gravenberch for the game against Unai Emery's men, while the fixture will also come too soon for Alisson Becker and Jeremy Frimpong, who are both recovering from hamstring issues. The big money buys of the summer in 125 minutes, Isak and 116 minutes. Florian Wirtz are yet to light the blue touch paper on their Anfield careers, and only Hugo Ekitike, a 79-minutes addition from Eintracht Frankfurt, has hit the ground running during a huge turnover of the playing staff in the summer months. Slot is having trouble keeping clean sheets. His fullbacks are struggling, and Mohamed Salah has looked a shadow of the player whose performances saw him finish as high as 4th in the recent Ballon d'Or rankings. Slot and his staff are also having to adapt to opponents, going more direct against their team than ever before. It's a blueprint that has underpinned much of the success teams have had against them of late, particularly Manchester United and Brentford. Liverpool are fully aware of how teams are counteracting their threat, but figuring out a different route to victory has proven beyond them of late. But despite the barrage of issues being thrown at Slot, however, a low-key cup exit on Wednesday night hasn't really moved the dial or ranked up the pressure on the head coach from those whose opinions will matter at Anfield. Saturday's clash with Villa was already being viewed as a must-win, particularly given they might find themselves 10 points behind league leaders. Arsenal, by the time the 8 p.m. kickoff gets underway, both the similarities and the contrast to the last time Villa pitched up at Anfield are striking. It was November last year when the Villains arrived on Merseyside for an 8 p.m. kickoff on a Saturday, a 2-0 win for the future champions, secured through goals from Darwin Núñez and Salah, took the leaders 5 clear of Manchester City, whose defeat at Brighton just an hour or so earlier helped create the sort of febrile Anfield din for which the place is renowned for. The 8 p.m. kickoff this weekend allows match-goers a similar opportunity to find their singing voices in the local watering holes around Anfield before kickoff, and Slot will no doubt implore the same level of atmosphere on the terraces this weekend. This time, however, Liverpool will likely need it just to keep them hanging precariously on the coattails of Mikel Arteta's Arsenal ahead of a huge week that sees them entertain Real Madrid before a trip to Manchester City. It's roughly the same fixture list that Liverpool navigated this time last year when they saw off Villa and swatted ASD City while finally gaining a measure of revenge against Real, who have beaten them in 2 relatively recent Champions League finals. Back then, many were anointing Slot's team as Europe's finest. And while similar results this time out won't see them regain those platitudes, a major week or so has the potential to sweep up the current mess. If the Carabao Cup is the collateral damage for that, then it will have been worth it for Slot. It's as close to a season-defining week as it's perhaps possible to get in November, and now his team has to deliver. MARC GUEHI helps expose Arne Slot gamble as Liverpool supporters make feelings clear. Doyle with the main talking points as Liverpool crash out of the League Cup with a miserable defeat against Crystal Palace at Anfield on Wednesday evening. From the moment he accepted the onerous challenge of following in the footsteps of Jurgen Klopp as Liverpool boss, Arne Slot has shown he isn't averse to taking a gamble, and it became apparent the Dutchman was lining up another when the team sheet for this latest Reds misery dropped. Despite a run that has now extended to 6 defeats in 7, a worst such sequence in 16 years, there are no realistic calls to jettison Slot barely 6 months after delivering a record-equaling 20th championship for Liverpool. The pressure, though, continues to mount, and there is no doubt the Reds boss very much placed his eggs in the one proverbial basket by naming such an understrength side here. Milos Kerkez, the only player to retain his starting role, while the likes of Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk, Dominic Szoboszlai, Ibrahima Konate, and Cody Gakpo, although all fit and available, watched from the stands. The priority is instead the forthcoming week, when a Premier League visit of Aston Villa and trip to Manchester City sandwich a glamour Champions League clash against Real Madrid at Anfield. Slot reasonably explained the season-ending injury to Giovanni Leone and needless suspension accrued by Hugo Ekitike when beating Southampton in the last round, highlighted the risks of naming a stronger team, especially with Alexander Isak, Jeremy Frimpong, Curtis Jones, Ryan Gravenberch, and Alisson Becker already out. But there was an overwhelming feeling among those inside Anfield. The selected team were on a hiding-to-nothing against a Palace outfit who, while rotated, still possessed the rhythm of selection of several key players, including 2-goal Ismaila Sarr and skipper and continued Liverpool transfer target MARC GUEHI. Now the onus will now be on Slot and his rested players to ensure his calculated gamble pays off, and this meek surrender of their League Cup aspirations was not in vain. Gomez highlights issue. The dangers of rustiness were always going to lurk, menacingly given Liverpool's experimental lineup, and so it proved. For much of the first half, Joe Gomez had been the Reds' stellar performer, decisive on both the ground and in the air, and eager to impose his experience while staking a claim for more regular inclusion. But then a poor touch surely born from so little first team football this season invited Sarr to score the game-breaking opener. A few minutes later, Wataru Endo, here on the right of a back three and another to begin the game strongly, was dragged out of position and Sarr again capitalized. Such was the risk Slot took with this team, a mixture of underutilized first-team squad players, fringe youngsters, and academy hopefuls. And there were precious few options from the bench, among whom only Kaidi Gordon had previously started a game for Liverpool. With Federico Chiesa having to drop deep to avoid the physical might of Palace's rearguard, the Reds lacked presence up front with only Rio Ngumoha coming close during a fleeting period of promise in the opening quarter. For only the sixth time under Slot, his team failed to score. At least Alexis Mac Allister, another lacking sharpness, gathered more much-needed minutes under his belt. But this was a night of very few positives for an Anfield support that pointedly offered their backing for Slot and his players after the final whistle. It is needed. Liverpool gets new penalty verdict as furious Arne Slot claim dismissed. Liverpool was denied a penalty in the first half of its 3-2 defeat at Brentford on Saturday, with referee Simon Hooper waving away the visitors. Appeals Liverpool has been informed it was correctly denied a spot kick against Brentford, with the call being described as one of the best decisions this season. That's the view of former Premier League official Mark Clattenburg. During the opening period of Saturday's 3-2 loss in the capital, the Reds' Cody Gakpo was sent tumbling following a challenge from Nathan Collins. Official Simon Hooper dismissed the away side's protests, and shortly afterwards, Brentford doubled its advantage. Following the match, Arne Slot suggested that every referee in the world would have awarded Liverpool a spot kick for Collins' challenge. However, Clattenburg firmly disagrees with him. I have been a big critic of referees recently, but I want to praise Simon Hooper here, Clattenburg said on the Whistleblowers podcast. There's a couple of things a referee is going to look at. First is the defender's leg planted before any contact. The leg was already there. The second is to look at the attacker's arms. If you watch a school child fall in the playground, they automatically put their arms out to protect themselves. Watch Gakpo's reaction. His hands are in the air. And that tells me he's looking for the decision. He sees Collins' leg and anticipates it. That gives a top referee all the signs they need to play on. It's probably one of the best decisions I have seen this season. There's huge pressure. It's one of the biggest sides in the country. To make that decision in a split second is incredible. Clattenburg wasn't alone in his agreement with the decision. Video assistant referee Chris Kavanagh reviewed Hooper's call and concurred that it wasn't a penalty. Gakpo's tumble, Clattenburg contended, bore the telltale signs of a dive. He elaborated, "If you fall, your natural reaction is to put your arms out to protect yourself. If you don't put your hands up, you're going to hurt yourself. We're looking for natural reactions. That's a telltale sign."